Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining this Healthy Planet Consumer webinar. I'm just about to get started. I just want to check the chat here and see if someone wouldn't mind typing if you can hear me, see me, and awesome. Paula, you can hear and see me. Great. Thank you, everyone. Okay, so we're just going to get started. Just going to minimize some things here. Okay, thanks everyone for joining. My name is Joleen Gruber. I'm the National Educator with Organica, and I'm super happy to be giving this webinar tonight on behalf of Healthy Planet. So it's a perfect time of year to talk about electrolytes. I am a nutritionist, I'm a mom, I'm an athlete. I've been a nutritionist, gosh, for over 20 years now. And I love learning about everything nutrition, healthy food. I love sports as well. So this topic kind of blends in well with sports and athletes and really just everyone, because as the weather gets warmer, people are in need of a little bit more electrolytes. So I will get started, and I will mention that one of my colleagues, Paula, will be checking the chat throughout. So if you have questions, your question could get answered in the chat, and I will also be checking the chat at the end. So feel free to ask any questions in the chat, and between the two of us, we'll get your questions answered. So before I get started, just wanted to tell you a little bit about Organica and who we are. So Organica is a natural wellness and beauty company from beautiful British Columbia, Canada. I personally love working for a Canadian company, and I'm sure your customers, in the stores that you shop in, and you as a customer love supporting Canadian brands. I personally am super happy to work for a Canadian company, and we've been helping people live healthier lives for the past 32 years. Actually, Organica is having a birthday this August. So we've grown from a humble line of supplements to an always evolving collection of natural health and beauty products, including Canada's #1 collagen, which you're all very familiar with, I'm sure. So we're also the 4th recognized brand in Canada. So as you know, there's so many great brands across Canada, a lot of amazing Canadian companies. So to be recognized as the 4th is something we're very proud of. So tonight's topic is Hydrate Your Way to Health. And this is a great topic, especially today if you're in Ontario. I know there's probably people from all over, but in Ontario, we have beautiful weather. It reached, I think, 23 degrees today. And as we get closer to summer, people need to pay attention to their hydration. So I'm going to talk about the most important electrolytes, why electrolytes and water are both great when we wake up and throughout the day, signs that you need more electrolytes, overhydrating with plain water, and electrolytes and how they can improve cognition, strengthen bones, and stabilize blood sugar. So let's get started. Have you ever wondered why so much attention has been given to electrolytes? Well, as I mentioned, they're very necessary. They're really important because electrolytes are minerals that are really popular now. They're kind of on trend. You've probably seen them a lot on social media, but it's really important because our cells within our body, we have thousands and thousands of cells. They hold our minerals, and our minerals hold our water. So both are very essential. The water and the minerals, or electrolytes, as I like to call them, are both very key for hydration. So I'll just repeat that again. Our cells in our body hold our minerals, like calcium, magnesium, and so on. I will talk about them tonight. So our cells hold our minerals, and our minerals hold our water. So that's key for keeping the water and keeping us hydrated within our bodies. So first off, let's start. What are electrolytes? So electrolytes are the smallest substances that allow cells to function. The substances are essential minerals that carry electric charge and come in the form of sodium, potassium, magnesium, chloride, calcium, and phosphorus. Many of these minerals are lost through sweat. If some of you have ever run in the summertime or in a 5K, 10K or higher race, sometimes at the end, you have that white dried salt all over your body. That is sodium and electrolytes that we're losing while we sweat. So it's really important to replace that. Many of the minerals are lost through sweat, but they can also be lost if we're not feeling well, if we're sick, just even if we're outside gardening on a hot day. And just regular functions such as urination or breathing can lose some electrolytes. So not all electrolytes are created equal. Of course, you would have guessed each type of electrolyte has its own function, which I will go into, and some are more crucial than others, but some of the most abundant electrolytes and why our bodies require them is what I'm going to go into tonight. So let's start with calcium. Calcium is one of those minerals that have kind of been at the forefront for many, many years. I remember when I started doing my nutrition designation well after university over 20 years ago. I don't know if you guys can remember, but the billboards around town used to have calcium, and they'd have that muscle, the picture of someone's muscle, and calcium being good for your bones. And while that is true, it's sometimes a little bit misleading because calcium is the most abundant electrolyte in the human body, and we often associate it with strong bones and healthy teeth, but it also aids in the nervous system, the muscle function, and heart health. And of course, there's great sources such as dairy, eggs, greens are amazing, figs, and so on. But what I really want to focus on with the calcium is how the body strives to be in balance when it comes to calcium. So if you can imagine, when you're eating good foods like greens, for example, a cup of broccoli has about 138 milligrams of calcium. A cup of dairy has about 134 milligrams of calcium. So pretty similar. And sometimes though, because dairy is a little bit acid forming, it pulls our body pH to be a little bit more acidic. So things like alcohol, coffee, junk food, basically all the good stuff pulls our body pH to be a little bit more acidic. And our body always strives to be in balance. It doesn't want to be acidic, it wants to be neutral. So if you can think of grade 10 science, when you look at a pH scale, it runs from 0 to 14. So around 7 is neutral, 0 would be more acidic, and 14 would be more alkaline. So our body always strives to be around neutral, which is from 6.4 to 7.4. So when our body pH is more acidic because we've had more, junk food, coffee, alcohol, and so on, our body will pull from an alkaline source to bring it into neutral. So that alkaline source is our bones. So it's really important when we're eating, we want to make sure we're eating healthfully. And we don't want to eat all alkaline because we want our body pH to be neutral. So if you can imagine your dinner plate, you would want 3/4 of your dinner plate to be, say, salads and greens, and 1/4 to be a protein. So, your chicken, your meat, your fish, if you're a vegetarian, then different proteins you can choose as well. So calcium is really important, but we want to make sure we're absorbing it. So there's other minerals that help with the absorption of calcium that I'll go into as well. But just note that we're in what's called a calcium paradox. And what that means is we're consuming all these foods that are very acidic to our body pH. So I'll use my mom as an example. She's in her late 70s, but when she was actually probably my age, almost 50, she went to the doctor and the doctor told her she had to watch her bone density. So my mom, at the time, I was doing my nutrition night school designation, and I learned about pH and acid forming versus alkalizing foods. So made sure she was getting good sources of calcium and some other electrolytes and minerals in the diet to make sure that her bone health was really strong. So it's important to make sure we're getting minerals like calcium for hydration and our bone health, but it's really important also to make sure that we're eating well, and that what happens is when we're eating, traditional, junk food and foods like that, they really pull our body pH more acidic. And really our consumption of these foods is directly proportional to our bone health. for women. Women, it's more common to have bone density issues. So not only eating foods with good calcium and getting good electrolytes, but it's also making sure that we absorb the calcium. So I will talk about that as well. But I always love to share that story because, you know, you could be consuming a ton of dairy. I'm very sensitive to dairy, so I only have it as a treat once in a while. But if I did have it every day, I would have some digestive issues, and just know that it's acid forming in the body. So we actually absorb things like greens and broccolis and other foods that are with calcium much better. So it's really important to making sure we're getting a wide variety. Phosphorus is another mineral that has a similar role as calcium because it assists in maintaining healthy bones and teeth. So really important to make sure we're getting that. Most vegetables and fruits are very low in phosphorus. So if you're a plant-based kind of eater, make sure you're getting adequate phosphorus, whether from electrolytes, you know, or minerals or so on. But good sources are meat, dairy, beans, and nuts. And for vegetarians, they don't usually eat the meat or the dairy. So just make sure that you're getting some of that in your diet or through electrolytes. And then magnesium. So magnesium is one of those minerals that I think should be on the billboards for the last 20, 25 years, because this mineral is super important. It does over 350 things in the body. So magnesium is required by every organ in the body. It helps maintain muscle function. It helps with nerve function, and it also helps strengthen bones. I talked about bone health in the calcium slide, but it works really closely with potassium as well to help lower blood pressure. So it does so many things. Whether you're looking to lower your blood pressure naturally, a naturopathic doctor could really help you with that, but magnesium is fantastic for lowering blood pressure naturally. And good sources of magnesium include nuts, beans, all green leafy vegetables, and some whole grains. So I guess the important thing about magnesium is it's really great because when we're sweating, we do lose a lot of magnesium and other electrolytes. But if you can imagine putting calcium, say you get a calcium supplement and you put it in some water and you stir the calcium and the water together, the calcium may not fully dissolve, but as soon as you add in some magnesium, it puts the calcium in solution. So in our bodies, magnesium is really important, not only for bone health, but just for the absorption of calcium, because it helps put the calcium in solution so we absorb it really well. Calcium is really important, but you really need that magnesium as well. And like I said, magnesium is one of those things that does so many things in the body. You've probably at some point in your life had a leg cramp, whether it's been during pregnancy if you're a woman, or if you've ran a marathon. I remember running a marathon years ago with my sister, and I remember seeing a guy in front of me and his calf looked like it had a golf ball and it was from a muscle cramp during the run. So I've coached a lot of runners before too, and just really making sure leading up to a marathon or a longer run that they're getting enough magnesium and electrolytes leading up to the race. So it's not just the day of the race, you know, okay, I'm going to have a couple electrolyte drinks. It's the days up until the race. So usually I will say for a marathon too, with my experience, the last 10 kilometers. So a marathon is, 42 and a half, I think, kilometers. So the last 10, so after 30K is really when the race starts because that's when people start to fall apart. And usually when you're training for a marathon, you are doing everything well. You're doing your long runs, you're getting your tempo runs in, you're getting, you know, all the runs in, but where people tend to fail is with electrolytes. So it's really making sure you're getting enough because like I said, those last 10 kilometers, I'm using a marathon as an example, but of course, shorter distances in hot weather and just shorter distances in general, we do need electrolytes. But for example, when you're doing a marathon, those last 10 kilometers is when they say is when the race starts, because that's when people really start to struggle with their hydration. You can imagine being out there for 30 kilometers, your body's gonna start to need some electrolytes. So some people can't finish the marathon because they get nauseous. I've even seen this in 10K runners, 10 kilometer runs. Some people get nauseous. and that's always not enough electrolytes. So really important to make sure as you're leading up to the race, if you're doing runs this spring and this summer, making sure you're getting adequate electrolytes daily, and really important to make sure there's no sugar in there. There's a lot of electrolytes out there. I mean, I'll talk about Organica. We have great ones, but there's a lot that have a lot of food coloring and sugar, and we don't want that. But just making sure you're getting enough leading up to the race is really, really important. But as I said, you know, leg cramps, brain health, eye twitches, so many things magnesium does. You could go, you know, use Dr. Google and find lots of things, or talk to a nutritionist or a naturopath, and you'll find that magnesium is one of those minerals that are so important. As I mentioned, it's really great for lowering blood pressure naturally if you're working with a healthcare practitioner. I've even seen people come off their meds gradually alongside of using magnesium. So really great for high blood pressure or hypertrophy. So, and it's really relaxing. Magnesium, a lot of people take at night, but I love to take it throughout the day, just in an electrolyte drink. And I just sip on it sort of a few times throughout the day. So really, really great to make sure we're getting, I can't say enough about magnesium. So really important to making sure you're getting enough magnesium. Potassium is another electrolyte, another mineral that if you watch sports, you'd notice that athletes always seem to have a banana with them. That was my go-to. I played university soccer and semi-pro soccer after university, and banana was always the thing I just had like an hour before my game. And it's kind of fundamental because the potassium in there is really good. It's a great electrolyte, and it's really good for muscle function, but it's also essential for heart function, muscle contraction, as I mentioned, and skeletal growth. But some other good sources besides banana is coconut water, beans, and avocados. So they're all great sources of potassium as well. Just click to the next slide here. Then I'll go on to sodium. So sodium is fabulous. I mean, we're kind of at a point today where people are finally starting to realize that we should not be blaming salt for what the sugar did. Okay, so salt is one of those things that we need. It's like an electrical charge within our body, and it does so many things. And we're reminded not to consume so much sodium. But what I find is a lot of times when people are not eating well, and by that I mean if they're eating a lot of fast food, they're eating on the run, and they're not cooking their own healthy foods from Mother Nature. I always say Mother Nature gets it right, human intervention gets it wrong. So if you think of someone, you know, the standard American diet where it's fast food, a lot of fast food a couple times a day, yes, there's probably a lot of sodium in that food, but there's also probably a lot of sugar. And people, when they think of sugar, they think of sweets like pop and chocolate bars, but we have to remember that the refined carbohydrates like the breads and so on turn to sugar very fast, and they affect us just like a Coke or a chocolate bar. So a lot of times the foods that are very high in sodium are very high in sugar as well. So sodium's sort of taking the brunt of it. But it's really important to make sure that we realize that, okay, if we cleaned up our diet and we didn't consume the fast food that we were consuming, say we made all of our food at home, or most, 75% of our, 80% of our diet was from Mother Nature, sodium wouldn't be an issue, and you'd probably need to add more sodium to your diet. So people are starting to catch on, that, okay, don't blame salt for what the sugar did. Sugar raises our insulin levels, which causes, us to hold on to sodium in the body. So, people are realizing, okay, I need to start to clean up my diet, get rid of a lot of the refined carbohydrates. Then they find that the weight comes off and they're feeling a lot better. So I just always like to mention that. So some good sources of sodium, seaweed, celery, olives, pickles, tomatoes. There's good natural sources, but of course, sea salt is fabulous. There's pink Himalayan, there's regular sea salt, and it's from the sea, so there's lots of minerals. I'm not talking about the table salt, I'm talking about sea salt, because there's lots of great minerals. If you go to the, health food store like Healthy Planet, they'll have lots of nice different varieties of sea salts. And what I do personally is I make sure I get my electrolytes throughout the day. And I also sprinkle sea salt on a lot of my foods. So really important to make sure that you're getting enough throughout the day. So Of course, sodium, sea salts, they're all types of electrolytes, as I've mentioned. So sodium, potassium, magnesium are really, really important of some of the ones that I've spoke about. So your cells can use potassium alongside of sodium. So when a sodium ion enters a cell, potassium ion leaves and vice versa. So potassium is also especially critical to your heart function. So really important to making sure we're getting potassium and sodium. And as I mentioned before, magnesium does over 350 things in the body. And I mean, you could find lists and lists of the things that magnesium does. It's so essential. So people, like I said, are catching on now that we shouldn't blame the salt for what the sugar did, or, the minerals. So highly processed foods also contain high levels of sugar and, industrial bad fats and oils, which we want to stay away from. So if we're looking at the true culprit, which is sugar, don't punish the wrong target, which is sodium. So really making sure we get those electrolytes in the morning to start with is really good, because as we, increase the electrolytes through the day, we have a lot more energy and we feel much better. Sometimes people, if they're feeling really low or they're fatigued throughout the day, it's electrolytes. They don't have enough. And I mean, I'm not suggesting you go to the vending machine at work or at the convenience store and get those big electrolyte drinks that are full of color and food coloring and tons of sugar, but choosing better ones. Like, Organica has these lovely electrolytes. This is picture here on the slide is our pink lemonade, and there's 0 sugar. So it's a fabulous way to add electrolytes throughout the day. And I love having this one first thing in the morning because it's sort of an everyday electrolyte that you can have a few times if you like throughout the day. So for instance, you're getting, 30 milligrams of sodium, 60 milligrams of magnesium, 175 milligrams of potassium, which are great. And first thing in the morning, it's really good to have to kind of top up your tank. People usually like to have some water. Lemon and water is great in the morning as well. And when you add lemon to water, it's actually very alkalinizing for your body pH, which is good because most of us tend to be a little bit more acidic. But having those electrolytes before you have your coffee or your tea in the morning is really great for hydration. So really important to make sure we're topping up our tank first thing in the morning. So when we wake up, the first thing we want to rehydrate after sleeping all night. So you kind of been fasting all night because you've been sleeping. So it helps regulate your muscle and nerve function, your metabolism, your blood pressure, and it just hydrates you. And as I mentioned before, it's great for your pH because all the, the minerals in there like magnesium, sodium, potassium, and so on, they're really good for your pH. So when our pH is neutral and balanced, we are healthy. So hydrate first thing in the morning, and it's really good after sleeping all night. And you can have it throughout the day as well. Sometimes at 3 o'clock in the afternoon when people are, feeling a little bit snackish or really tired, maybe they're at the office and they just want to get to 5 o'clock. A lot of people usually go to the vending machine and get a pop and a bag of chips. Well, this is a great time where you could have an electrolyte drink, especially this time of year. Throw in some ice and just, sip it. I have a big one on my desk, and that's what I sip in the afternoon. And it's very hydrating and very healthy because there's 0 sugar as well. So it has a tiny bit of sweetness, I will mention, which comes from stevia, but only a little bit of stevia. So sometimes people are sensitive to stevia because it kind of has a bit of a bitter taste in some things that it's in, but there's so little in here that you don't even taste it. And I'm kind of sensitive to that, but it tastes amazing. You don't get any bitter taste, and you have a tiny sweetness, but it's not sugar. So it's not affecting your insulin or your blood sugar. So really important to make sure that you're not having added sugars, because that's just creating another problem, insulin resistance that we're dealing with in North America. So really important to make sure if you're having electrolytes, don't have sugar with it. So stevia is a natural base, herbal-based sweetener, and it doesn't affect our blood sugar. So very healthy, very good to have, safe for diabetics, and safe for everybody. So really good to just make sure when you're having electrolyte drinks, you're being aware, like looking at the label to see how much sugar there is. I know I have 2 teenage boys and they both play rep hockey. And even when they were little, some of the kids would walk out with massive electrolyte drinks that were bigger than they were when they were little and full of food coloring and tons of sugar. And that's just not what we need. It doesn't help with hydration. And then you'll see the electrolytes in there probably aren't even that much. So really focusing on good ingredients. You don't want the sugar. Natural sweeteners are okay if it's something like stevia and it doesn't affect blood sugar. And that really sets you up for a good sleep too. That's another webinar in itself, but when you're limiting the amount of sugar that you have, your blood sugar is more even throughout the day. When we're on a roller coaster ride with our blood sugar, that's when we come into a lot of issues where we have problems losing weight, our energy, and we have poor sleeping habits at night. Maybe we're waking up a lot in the middle of the night. So just making sure that you're aware and you're looking at the label for electrolyte drinks or any product that you're buying, really. And Organica is great because they're super clean and we don't add any sugars, which is what you want. So some signs that you need some more electrolytes. Like I had mentioned on the last slide, sometimes you just feel fatigued and sometimes you feel starving hungry and really it's just electrolytes. So that's why I say have an electrolyte drink first thing in the morning, kind of top up your tank after you've been sleeping / fasting all night. And throughout the day, have a couple more electrolyte drinks. And these are really convenient because they're just powders and you can take them on the go and you can pour them in your water or however you like to have them. But sometimes if you're confused or you're irritable, fatigue is a big one. Sometimes if we've been sick and we have diarrhea, we really need electrolytes because we lose a lot. So even if we've had the flu, you want to make sure you're replacing those electrolytes. And that's when we start to feel nauseous, is when we don't have our electrolytes like sodium and magnesium. Headaches are really common with people that don't have enough electrolytes. And muscle cramps, right? That magnesium that I talked about, muscle cramps at night, muscle cramps during the day, spasms or weaknesses, nausea and vomiting. These are all signs that you need electrolytes. You can even have numbness or tingling in your fingers or your toes, and that's a sign that you could use some electrolytes. I know the keto diet has been really popular for quite some time now. So if you do low carb or you eat keto, really important to make sure you're getting electrolytes, because when you do the keto diet, your insulin levels remain lower, which is good. That's how the weight loss happens. And with the keto diet, and the kidneys excrete some electrolytes such as sodium. So it's essential for people, if they're doing the keto diet, to make sure they're replenishing their electrolytes so they don't feel nauseous. Sometimes they think they're getting the flu and they call it the keto flu, but you want to make sure that you're replacing those electrolytes. And really just anything, like low energy could be caused from not having enough electrolytes in the diet. So, muscle cramps, brain fog, low energy, weakness, insomnia are all symptoms that we need more minerals and electrolytes, which are important for everybody, but especially important if people are doing low carb or the keto diet. Overhydrating with plain water. So I get this question a lot. Is it possible to drink too much water? So yes, it definitely is. A lot of times people drink too much water and they're actually flushing out a lot of their minerals. So as I mentioned at the beginning, our cells hold on. We have thousands of cells in our body, and our cells hold our minerals and our minerals hold our water. So if we're consuming too much water, sometimes it's a vicious circle, like we're drinking a lot of water and our thirst increases. So it's like we're drinking way too much water. And a good judge is the color of your urine. You want it to be the color of lemonade, like a pale yellow. And if that's the color, you should be good. Obviously, we took some B vitamins. It's going to be like fluorescent yellow from the vitamins, but that's just like, a few hours after. But usually, in the morning or, later afternoon around 3 or 4 o'clock is a good time to kind of check it out and see. But you ideally want the color to be like lemonade. So definitely, if you're drinking way too much water, you can be flushing out some of those minerals. So really important to make sure we're topping up our tank throughout the day, especially as the warmer weather comes. If we're outside gardening, if we're an athlete and we're running, we're biking, you know, just being active outside, really important. Also, I will mention my father-in-law is 89 years old. He'll be 90 this year. He doesn't like water, so he drinks our electrolytes because it tastes good. So he's actually doing better than not drinking water. So if you have friends or family that have a hard time drinking water, well, you know, try the electrolytes with 0 sugar, because we don't want the sugar, and it'll help with hydration throughout the day, and it tastes good. So especially construction workers, people that are outside a lot in the summer as well, people landscaping and whatnot, is really important to make sure you're hydrated with electrolytes and water. So bone health is really important. Cognitive function is important, blood sugar is important. I did touch on this a little bit, but there's a picture here of our Electrolytes Plus Enhanced Collagen. This is a fabulous product, and what it is some of you may be familiar with our enhanced collagen, which is great for joint health, hair, skin, and nails, gut health. It's fabulous and great for aging gracefully as well as we get older and we want to continue to run and play golf and do all those great things, and even gut health and hair, skin, nails, it's fabulous for. But in our regular enhanced collagen, we have 10 grams of collagen, and we've taken 5 grams and put it in with our electrolytes. So here's a picture of our Electrolytes Plus Enhanced Collagen. So with this, you're getting the benefits of a lot of great electrolytes and high amounts. So you're getting 440 milligrams of sodium, 175 milligrams of potassium, and 60 milligrams of magnesium. So this is a good amount of electrolytes for those people that are sweating and out there, or maybe you've been sick, or maybe you do the keto diet. There's more electrolytes in here than our everyday electrolytes that I mentioned earlier. And you're also getting the benefit of enhanced collagen. So the collagen is great for joint health. The electrolytes are great, as I mentioned, for cognition, great for bone health because the magnesium keeps the calcium in solution in the body, and then stabilizing blood sugar. The 5 grams of collagen is a good source of protein as well. So anytime you're adding some good protein to the diet, you're keeping the blood sugar stable. It's when we're having those refined sugars, refined carbohydrates, all the good stuff, the fast foods and everything, that's what puts our blood sugar on a roller coaster ride. So just by getting that extra protein, it kind of balances our blood sugar as well. So this is kind of one of those fabulous products for all those 3 areas. And we have 3 flavors. So the last slide was a lemon berry. Everyone has the favorite. Lemon berries, they're all good. Lemon berry is my favorite. And then there's wild berry. Take a snapshot of this. I think you'll all be getting the recording of this webinar, but this is a wild berry electrolyte drink plus enhanced collagen. So Organic has done a Bellini. So there's the ingredients. Feel free to try this recipe. It tastes amazing. And you could also try it with the other flavors. So the last slide was the lemon berry. This is wild berry, and we also have a juicy strawberry peach. So you can try the Bellini with anyone and try it out and enjoy. So I will mention, I'll just leave this slide on if you guys want to take a picture with your camera, but you will get the recording. And I will mention that all the Organica electrolytes are on sale until tomorrow at midnight, so Thursday at midnight. So you'll get 20% off. So that's a great deal. So again, you're getting great source of magnesium and vitamin C. I love that all of our electrolytes are caffeine free. So anytime, like in the evening, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, tonight, when you go watch the Leaf game, you know, I'm wrapping up now, so we should catch the end of the first period, but make yourself an electrolyte drink, right? Sit down, unwind, really good because there's no caffeine in there. Well, thank you all so much for joining. I will check the chat right now. And as I mentioned, you guys will receive the recording of this. And I just want to say thanks a lot for joining and have a good night and go Leafs go. I'll check the chat now. And thank you, Paula. My colleague here has answered a lot of these questions. You're amazing. Okay, I think most of these are answered. I've got 2 new ones. You will receive the slides. Oh, sorry. You used to receive them by email and I lied. Now they're on YouTube. So Healthy Planet has a YouTube channel. I think that's where you get it now. We used to email them out, and now you can check their YouTube. So I'm almost 100% positive that's where you'll find it. Unfortunately, I don't think you'll receive the answers to all these questions, but you can watch the recording. So actually, I'm not sure about that. Yes, I'm correct. Okay, thanks, Paula. Thank you, guys. I'm glad you enjoyed the webinar. How much collagen is safe for the liver? Well, you know, the enhanced collagen is bovine. So, you know, I like to consider it kind of like food, right? You get bovine collagen, a good source is found in meat. So, you know, I personally have 2 to 3 servings of collagen a day. And, you know, anything your body doesn't absorb, it'll excrete. So they recommend 1 serving a day, which is great to notice difference with your joints, your joint health. And I will say that I've been with Organica for over 4 years and I've been using the collagen. And I had, yeah, a sore hip just from competitive sports most of my life. And it went away. It's amazing, like within a month of using it, and I haven't stopped. So really, really good for aging and just aches and pains as we get older. Definitely anyone, you know, 40, 30 years and older, because in our late 20s, early 30s is when we really start to notice the decline. Our body stops making as much collagen. So you really want to take it to fill in the gaps. And the electrolytes plus enhanced collagen is just a great addition as well to kind of get the best of both. So I have a lot of questions here about the responses. So this chat, I'm not 100% sure if all the answers to all the questions, if you'll be able to see them in the YouTube, but that's something you'll have to check. But Paula's done an amazing job. If you just scroll up the chat, she's answered all the questions. So just take your time and go through it. I will leave this running for a few minutes for those that want to scroll up. And you could, if you wanted to, you could scroll up to the top of the chat, highlight everything, copy, and paste it in like a Word document, and then you'd have them all. Okay, so I'm going to check. There's a Q&A as well. Okay, so a question here in the Q&A. If you live in a place with hard water, are you not getting electrolytes from the minerals in the water? Well, our city water has a lot of chlorine in there, and the chlorine is meant to kill pathogens, which it has done. If you go to like a water depot in your city, wherever you live, you can get a lot of education on the water, but it's much better to drink cleaner water like reverse osmosis or osmosis, or mineralized water, because the city water is not the best, in my opinion. So what role do herbal teas, regular teas, and coffee and cocoa play in supplying minerals in our diet? Yeah, so I would say that cocoa has some minerals. Some herbal teas add them as well. But I would say regular tea and coffee, not as much. Of course, there's probably other brands that might add them to have a little bit more, but you'd have to look into that. So there are 6 types of magnesium. Okay, yes. And which would be the best, and would it be based on needs? So yes, there are many different types of magnesium. There's magnesium L-threonate, which is great for brain health. There's magnesium bisglycinate, which is great for the nervous system, and we absorb it really well. There's magnesium citrate. There's so many different kinds. Magnesium in general is great. It just really depends on the person and what they need. Typically, magnesium is great for the body, and it does so many good things. So I guess it would depend on your need. I think personally that, yeah, a magnesium supplement, it's one of the foundational supplements that is something I make sure I get in every day. Oh yes, so just to be clear, electrolytes and minerals are the same thing. I use them interchangeably. You're correct. So someone said, I'm currently taking L-threonate as well as bisglycinate, and I had one of the worst eye twitches last week, like every day, and still getting muscle cramps. Well, those are both fabulous, the L-threonate and the bisglycinate, and they absorb very well. The L-threonate is more for brain health, and the bisglycinate is great for the nervous system. It's also really good for muscle cramps. And people love bisglycinate because it doesn't draw water to the bowel. Sometimes magnesium citrate draws water to the bowel, and you don't want to take too much of it because you can have loose stool. So maybe stick with the bisglycinate. You could try a citrate. Citrate is great for muscle cramps. So maybe you have to see what's best for you. But citrate is great for muscle cramps, but bisglycinate is very well absorbed and good for muscle cramps as well. So you might have to just get it in your system if you haven't been taking it too long, because you might, you need to kind of take it for a little, a week or so before you notice. And when I talk about beans, yes, legumes or green beans, yes, they're all beans. So is it accurate that Himalayan salt has toxin and lead? Not if it's a good reputable brand from a health food store like Healthy Planet. They should not have any toxins or lead in it. Sea salts and Himalayan, so sea salt is from the sea, Himalayan is from the Himalayan mountains. It's pink and it's very, very loaded in minerals. So really, really healthy. But of course, you want to make sure that it's a good brand that you're buying. Sea salt does have some iodine. And yeah, it is important to have iodine in our diet. It's important to have minerals, especially with today with the farming practices. The farmers in Canada have just mass produced everything. So they haven't left the crops to rest. They're just, turning the soil over and planting and mass producing. So our soils today are very deficient in minerals. So that's why electrolytes are great, and, eating good foods. And unfortunately, a lot of the foods that are grown in our soils are missing some nutrients like iodine. And iodine is really great from sea products like seaweed as well. So good to take those too. Well, is it okay to take electrolytes if you have kidney problems? I would definitely talk to your doctor, not knowing your health history for sure. So yeah, definitely. The question here is, I don't drink a lot of water regardless of how much I try. Will this help make up for my water shortfall? Yes, electrolytes would definitely help make up for your water shortfall, and it would help you hydrate your body better because we need electrolytes for hydration. I would say there's a question here, spring water would have more electrolytes in it. Mineralized water would have the most. So Organica collagen doesn't tend to make people bloat. It doesn't make me bloat. Haven't had that question before. Yes, electrolytes are great and safe to take daily. Of course, you always want to check with your doctor because not knowing your health history, everyone is different. So yeah, coffee, another question here is, I love coffee and now I'm wondering how much caffeine might be depleting my minerals. Well, just keep in mind, for every cup of coffee, you deplete about 2 cups of water. So I always get the question, okay, what if I have 2 cups of water in my coffee? Well, now you're at 0 water. So that's good. I drink coffee. You just want to make sure you're hydrating and getting enough water. If someone drank like 6, 7 cups of coffee a day, that might be a lot and you're really dehydrated and depleted. So, try weaning off the coffee a little bit. Enjoy your coffee, maybe 1 to 2 times a day, but anything more than that could be very dehydrating. And again, you can check with your urine, right? The color of lemonade is what you want. So the question here is about sodium for high blood pressure persons. So if you can remember at the beginning, I talked about sodium and sugar. Magnesium is fabulous electrolyte for lowering blood pressure naturally. That's something you would probably want to talk to a nutritionist or a naturopathic doctor about, just to help, but it does work really well. So when is the best time to take magnesium, morning or night? You can take it any time of day. A lot of people take magnesium sometimes before bed because it's very relaxing, but I personally like to take it a few times throughout the day in my Organica electrolyte drinks. And then it's sort of getting absorbed slowly throughout the day, and I constantly have a good amount circulating in my body. And for the 20% off Healthy Planet, I believe that will be online and in store. So I don't know of any concerns of taking black cohosh with Organica electrolytes powder. Have not heard of any concerns, but again, you'd want to talk with your doctor or your naturopath. So I've had a lot of questions here about the questions and the answers, and if it's possible to collect them all and post the questions and answers as a frequently asked to our website. So Organica's website has frequently asked questions at the bottom of each product. So you'd probably find them there. But as far as the questions from the webinar tonight, I will have to ask Healthy Planet, and I'll have to mention it at the next webinar. Yeah. But you can also check the YouTube in, I'd say within 48 hours, it probably will be there. And you can check the Q&A, the tab with the Q&A and the tab with the chat, because there's two ways to ask questions. And you can see afterwards if the recording shows all the questions and the answers, because I'm not 100% sure. Just checking to see if there's any more questions here. Okay, looks like that is it. Thank you guys so much for joining. I hope you guys have a great night and hope to see you at the next webinar. Bye for now.